I think it's a miracle that I hasn't got lip herpes this far by doing stand up, just by sharing the same microphone.
Oh, by the microphone
Yeah.
part. I thought
Yeah.
you meant just by how much gross sex people have in comedy.
That too.
It's ugly.
It's always like behind the dumpster, you know,
Worst.
in the 7-Eleven parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah, and they
Bad.
brag about it.
Well, because people who generally can't have sex, they like, or who are not as good at attracting
Yeah.
partners, they use stand
very
up like
diplomatic.
magic, like a spell.
Uh huh.
Because if you do really good and people are watching you for about an hour after your set, they want to have sex with you more than they would normally.
Is that true?
I don't know why. No one can explain it.
Okay.
But you
Yeah.
can ask most comedians. I've never even indulged in this because the whole time I've been doing stand-up, I've been with my wife.
Yeah.
And the first 2 years I was doing stand-up, I wasn't good enough at it to make anyone attractive.
Yeah.
But
That's
I've
why you
seen
still
I've
have
seen it a million times.
That's why you still have soul in your body and light in your eyes.
I don't think I have much light. Soul maybe.
Because you can always tell if a comic. I'm not trying to bash single people.
Sure.
But it's interesting. You can always tell if someone has a family, has a stable relationship. You know?
Well, I didn't say stable. It's tumultuous.
Okay, but like, does it make sense? Something like there is an anchor point
No,
somewhere.
I know what you mean.
But there's a distinctive difference between that and just like someone just like shifting
You
around.
gotta have someone to take care of.
Yeah. What's the tumultuous element of it?
Well, all relationships are tumultuous. That's the joke there.
Oh, mine is
At least the fun ones
pretty
are.
smooth.
Yours
sailing.
is smooth. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
I think he's a serial killer. That's the only
So,
explanation.
not tumultuous. You're like,
I was watching like Dexter. I'm like, that checks out.
that's
Yeah.
a funny thing that certain white people have. The boring psychopath
Yeah.
gene. That's probably not only a white trait, but
Are you white?
when I can,
Okay.
when people will allow me to be.
Do you
yes.
identify yourself as white?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. I'm Caucasian, but
Yes.
there are certain white Americans who are like, absolutely not.
What's the center of whiteness?
Anglo-Saxon,
It's British.
British, German, French,
Right.
and then whatever that Scandinavian shit.
Yeah.
That's our Han Chinese of white.
I feel like at a certain point, even Irish are not white enough.
No,
What?
that's the clip right there. That's
Yeah.
really funny. Yeah,
Right?
to some white people, yeah, Irish are like,
Definitely not Italian. Italian are just urban
yeah,
Europeans.
yeah. I mean,
I
it's
mean-
even there's always been race and racism is a sort of ethnographic discussion or whatever.
Yeah.
But like what white people did with racism
Yeah.
is very impressive. It's like what black people do with basketball. You're
Yeah.
like, you didn't invent it, but you took it to the next level.
Right.
So like where they decided they're like, if you have even one drop of anything else, the one drop rule. I don't know if
Yeah.
you know about it.
Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy. That's
I thought the one drop rule only applies to urban people.
it does apply mostly to black people. I mean,
Yeah.
but racism is not like a universal science.
Yeah.
People take bits and parts of racism and reapply it to everything,
You know what's interesting is people start to, extreme Trump fans are starting to use eugenics mindset to praise his son. He has this very tall son. What's his name?
Sure,
Balin? Barron.
Barron.
Yeah, that name is white as fuck. That sounds like
The American mind loves tallness.
yeah. How tall? Is he like 6'7" or something like that?
Yeah, he's taller than Trump.
It's like qualifies to play in the NBA kind of. Like I saw this very grotesque, like this gross picture of like this guy is 7 feet tall. He's this smart. He goes to his Ivy League. Blah blah blah. This is the proof of a good gene pool. And then there's like
That's
this
always
picture.
a good argument when you're talking genes.
Yeah, and then they show this picture of like Trump's whole family. It's all like very like white and whatever. If you
They're
make
big.
it like black and white, it kind of looks like the picture in Shining, like when that person becomes the last member of the ensemble.
They're all too big. They all have bad posture and like weird positions that they sit and stand in.
Yeah.
Which to some people, I think that looks like power. But Americans just love tall. Most elections are won by the taller candidate.
Is that true?
Yeah.
What's the shortest president ever
So
elected?
I think ever was James Madison,
Okay.
like 5'3" or something like that, 5'3".
Yeah, but that's back in the days.
That's a long time ago.
And
when
he
people were
also was
shorter.
grandfathered in from being a
Yes.
founding father.
But a few of those. I mean, even Washington was like at least like 6 foot or 5'11" or something like that.
Yeah.
So even back then, height had a predisposition. Then in the last 50 years, I think Jimmy Carter was the shortest guy.
How tall is Jimmy Carter?
I don't remember, maybe 5'8" or something like that. But he's one of
5'8".
the only presidents like under 6 foot.
Interesting. How tall is Bill Clinton?
Like 6 foot, 6'1", something like
6
that.
foot.
They're
No,
all
my mom
they're
is
all
weirdly
around-
attracted to Bill Clinton.
A lot of moms are
Yeah.
super attracted to
And
Bill
my mom's
Clinton.
Chinese, and
Yeah.
she doesn't know most Americans, but she's like, yeah, that's a one.
Isn't that
hot
funny
son
how
of a
like
bitch.
the American president, like there'll be people
Yeah.
that don't know any politics whatsoever, but they have opinions on the American president,
Yeah,
and why they like or dislike the president is very similar
yeah,
to why even very politically opinionated
Same-
Americans, same thing, yeah.
yeah.
Like, I don't trust him.
Yeah, I think my mom is probably more has more information than the average American voter.
Yeah, instead of
about
instead
any
of
president.
polling 1,100 Americans, they could just have one
Just
long
ask your mom.
conversation
Ask
with
my
your
mom.
mom.
Say, yeah, he's hot and whatever.
That's how I feel about most Bulgarian cab drivers. I'm like, you don't need to talk to everybody. Just talk to that guy.
Bulgarian.
A lot of Eastern European cab drivers. They're like the most opinionated. Not very smart or intelligent, but
Yeah.
incredibly opinionated.
Why are you guys so good at like tech stuff?
Tech stuff is like a good way to get money from other countries without having to be there.
Yeah, but here's the thing: there are certain niche softwares and stuff like that. If you look into it, all the developers are from like Ukraine, Poland,
Yeah.
some Romania, Bulgaria,
Communism. Look,
Estonia.
this
Yeah,
is the thing. They were presented with a subsidized education for
Yeah.
a long time
yeah,
and not enough wages.
uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, they're part of a global market, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I'm really a valuable worker who's willing to work at a discount."
Yeah.
Of course, everyone wants to move their stuff
Interesting.
there.
Okay, I asked this question last time, and Joseph was being a pussy. He refused to.
Well, Joseph is a real he's an expert on many things.
Yeah.
But in politics, I would not
Not
say.
politics. I'm
No.
gonna ask, what's the hierarchy among Eastern European countries, the USSR countries, but
Yeah.
exclude the obvious ones like
Most I don't
Russia.
think most Americans could ever answer that.
Yeah, I actually know all the
Yeah, of course.
yeah. Like I actually that's one of our tests.
One of the which test? What do you mean?
Like in China in the school system, you're gonna write down all the names, the member countries of USSR. I know all the
So
I know
there's
even like
15
Kazakhstan.
15
know,
republics.
Yeah, all that.
But then there's some like Tatarstan, right?
Yeah, all
Never-
the stan. There are like
never had-
16 of them or something.
There's some of them that never had they're just regions, but they never had independent republics in there.
Right.
So it is even more confusing. And then there's Mongolia,
Yeah. What's
which is not part of the USSR ever, but asked to join 3 or 4 times.
yeah. So what's the hierarchy amongst?
I mean, the closer to Moscow, the more. I don't know the actual hierarchy.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you. I could
Like,
probably
do you
tell
have jokes? It's like Bulgarians think Romanians are
For some,
liars.
No, not
stuff like
really.
that. Okay.
The one thing we knew, we really knew. I mean, and I wasn't born in that system. I was born
Yeah,
4 years after that fell.
Okay.
So what I know is like retroactive, hearing it from people and reading and watching movies and watching old
Yeah.
news reports and stuff.
Yeah.
People really knew that the standards of living were different.
Yeah.
Romania was like the Alabama of the Warsaw Pact. We were
Okay. Romanians are Alabama.
hardworking,
Okay.
lots of good schools, educated, but the money just didn't get down into the hands of the people. We had this
Interesting.
leader who kind of
You have a
hoarded
dictator.
a lot
right?
of it. Yeah.
You have a very famous tyrant or dictator.
Ceausescu, yeah. They all, but here's the thing, they all have dictators. So it's like,
yeah. But that one's very famous for some reason.
yeah,
It rings a
'cause
bell.
he is kind of,
What did he do?
he's an example of what not to do as a
Okay.
leftist
What did
leader.
what did your guy
So he gets
do?
criticized by the right and the left a lot.
Right.
One of the things he did, instead of figuring out like really smart, forward economic policy or whatever, he kind of did what Tito did. He played between the East and the West.
Yeah.
So he was like,
When did he? I'm
took
gonna
power
be
in
ignorant here.
1967.
So 1967. So
Yeah.
they're still part of USSR then.
They never were part of the USSR. The
Oh,
USSR
interesting.
after World War II,
Yeah.
they kind of split Europe, right?
Yes.
But they didn't make most of those countries part of the USSR.
It's in stages. I remember.
No. Like
No?
only the Baltic countries actually became states. of the-
Okay.
Poland was its own
Yeah.
country. It was the
Right,
People's
right, right.
Republic of Poland, whatever.
But Yugoslav, those are like.
Yugoslavia wasn't
Yeah.
even under there was no Soviet forces
Interesting.
even in Yugoslavia.
Okay.
They had their own partisan movement. They fought the Nazis. Tito, the reason the communists took power in Yugoslavia, they were the biggest political force that fought the
Interesting.
Nazis.
Okay.
And Yugoslavia is this weird third thing.
Yeah.
It was more Yugoslavia, Albania, and Romania were friends with China.
Uh-huh.
Even when Russia wasn't, like when the Sino-Soviet relationship split in 1955.
Yeah, that's a weird
We were the
period of time.
backdoor deal.
Yeah.
Which is also how Nixon went to China in the 70s. But whatever, more on that later. But he saw what Yugoslavia did, which is like, you know, kind of take some resources from Russia. Not a lot. They weren't in Caire. They weren't in the communist market or whatever. But takes like, you know, do some trade with them and get some like institutional know-how back and forth. But then he also would do kind of trade with the West.
Mm-hmm.
Sell Zastava cars in the West. Sell AK-47s through intermediaries.
It's two timing.
And take IMF loans.
Yeah.
Loans that he really never intended to pay back because he's a communist. He's like,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't
so what
care.
did he do to his people to earn such a notorious name?
Who? Ceausescu or Tito?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Tito here
No,
first.
no,
the Yugoslav leader.
No, not the Yugoslav. Your leader.
Our leader, basically, he kind of fucked up the last 8 years. For a large period of time, people kind of liked him.
Right.
They saw him as he was one of the first early communists to turn into a nationalist.
Okay.
In the European side, to Chinese
Yeah.
people, they go, we're all nationalists.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
whole thing.
Yeah.
But to, you know, in the European communists, they were like, we're internationalists. We don't even believe boundaries and whatever. This is all going to die at some point. We believe for every worker and every peasant. And he was like, no, I'm Romanian.
Yeah.
I love Romanian stuff.
Yeah.
And I love Romanian founding fathers and mythology and whatever. So he was able to kind of buy the hearts and minds of people who were never going to believe in communism and socialism and that level of organization. He was able to get to those people.
Mm-hmm.
And also the country did enjoy economic growth. Mm-hmm. More people learned to read, all this kind of stuff. But instead of like delegating more and more power down to the states, provinces, cities, whatever, he really was kind of like a freak who was like, he started doing this thing called systemization.
What's that?
It was like deciding which villages were too far away from places and didn't have enough infrastructure and being like, all right, everybody here has to move to the city. Now you don't have a choice in it. We're going to bulldoze your house. We're going to do all kinds of, and so that doesn't buy you any goodwill, and it really gives any of your political enemies like a lot of shit to point at. Be like, look at this fucked up thing this guy did. Plus, people really don't like it. They want to have the option to maybe move to an apartment in the city. They don't want to be forced to, and a lot of people don't want to give up their country home.
Let me ask you this question. Is this under his ruling? The
Yeah.
period police kind of thing?
The
Have you
secret
heard about
police or whatever.
No, the menstruation police. Is it Romania? I think it is.
I don't
They
know.
would check like women's period cycle
That sounds believable.
as a method of control of like reproduction.
Yeah, because
planning.
we were the only country that banned abortion fully.
Fully.
No exceptions.
What
for
do you mean
rape,
by
no.
fully?
So like there's no. I think the only exceptions were basically like medical ones when you're like, hey, the baby being born will kill the mother.
Yeah.
But even then, I mean, to get an abortion was such a strenuous task. It basically turned the doctors into a type of mafia.
Yeah.
There's this movie, an independent movie made about like the endeavors a girl would have to go to, which is like pay a lot of money. You'd still have to know somebody, and you probably have to have sex with a doctor. Like they would
have sex.
Yeah, they would exploit you in all kinds of crazy ways because if they got caught doing an abortion, they would, lose their job or get put in prison or maybe be put to death or something. It was a huge deal. Their version of Marxist-Leninism was like, we need to glorify the workers, but make a lot of workers too.
Right.
So we had the opposite problem of a lot of countries where we were not overpopulated at all. We were like, we need more people.
Oh, that's hence the...
Exactly. So no abortion. And a thing that was weird was when there did have abortion in Romania, it was the most preferred version of contraception.
Uh-huh.
People I don't know if condoms were even a viable solution back then. I don't think the diaphragm was medically or economically viable for a lot of people. But abortions it was easy.
Interesting. Okay, I just did a quick check. It is Romania. It's called Decree 770, and it is under your guy. I can't pronounce his name.
Ceausescu is his name.
Nicholas something?
Sure, yeah, Nicky.
Okay, I'm going to call him Nicky.
Yeah.
So what he did is he limited the access to abortion and contraception. And then, oh, that's so interesting.
He said if you had 10 children,
yeah,
you never had to pay taxes
like
again.
a hero mother. I
You're
think
a hero
Russia has the
mother of
same
state.
thing.
Yeah. A lot of these countries borrowed from each other. I mean, Romania was a part of the Axis. We teamed up with Hitler during World War II.
You guys are a lot.
So when the Soviets beat
Yeah.
our asses and made us part of the Allies, after the war was over, they kept us a military presence there for 7 years. That's why people think we were part of the USSR, because we were a puppet state. They would tell
But
us
you were
what-
never part of the USSR? Interesting.
No.
Fuck, that's why I
the
failed
only
my history
country,
test. Yeah.
the Moldova, the country right above Romania, it's
Yeah.
a tiny little thing that was made part of the USSR.
Yes, I remember that country. It's a name that's very hard to remember.
It's the poorest country in Europe now.
It's still pretty poor, right?
It's
Yeah.
absolutely. The part of Romania that I'm from is actually called Moldova. We have our own little inner Mongolia, outer Mongolia situation over
It's
there.
like there's like Paris. There's a Paris in
Yeah,
somewhere here.
And if whatever you read history, you understand why those countries were all separated. They took a Romanian land and they Russified it. They brought Russian people there. They took Romanian people out of there. It's a thing the Soviet Union did a lot. It would be considered genocide now. I think under Geneva Convention or whatever I'm not sure what established what we consider genocide. Probably Nuremberg.
Yeah.
But moving people forcibly from your lands is it's bad. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But the USSR's policy was like, that's a good way to kind of settle separatist movements and insurrection, whatever, without just killing everybody.
Right.
Because that's an option too.
Yeah. Okay, so pretty
You
humane.
can always just cut
Yeah.
heads off. That's always on the table in any administration. I don't care who you are. The U.S. thinks that way too.
It's interesting because the period police thing, I remember that is because I've read somewhere Handmaid's Tale is partially inspired by that. Like there's a portion of it.
Oh, yeah.
It's inspired by that. He said they have to send like women every month to like doctors to like have them check. Are they having their period? Are they fertile to make sure they're breeding?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if you were like a son or daughter of someone in the party or the nomenclatura or whatever, never had to deal with that.
Yeah, just only poor people.
Mostly, yeah. The
Mostly.
working class, the peasants and the workers, which are always the focus of.
Do you guys like boys more than girls? Do you guys do that? Or
Almost
that's a Chinese thing?
every culture seems to have that sort of masculine.
Do you dump it in the river like we used to do?
We don't have as many rivers to dump in it. Yeah, we just go to the woods with it. No, but it is. I remember my family always talks about how my grandpa was a bitter man, but he probably was even more so bitter because he only had girls.
Yeah. Oh God.
Always wanted a boy.
Yeah.
I
you maternal grandpa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think almost every culture, unfortunately, is like patriarchal and like is like, oh yeah, women good, but man, that's really what you want. Like,
it's very interesting because like in the past,
it's
I don't think it's the case now, but in the past, like in the big family, if your lineage only has daughters, every year spring festival you go to have dinner and you're not allowed to speak. You just feel so superior, like inferior. You're like
you contributed too much noise.
My
to the world.
Jizz doesn't work.
Well, they're like, your jizz is too loud anyway.
Yeah,
it's
everyone
just
will
all
like talk over you. All the men would talk over you. Even all the women who's like,
it doesn't
the
make
fuck
sense.
are you doing? Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And everything else in nature, you look at like the big animals, like the mammals that hunt. It's always the feminine one.
Yeah.
The masculine one is like, what does it do? Oh, it dances. It has like special feathers and like a mane to,
This reminds me of something very interesting. I kind of want to talk about. There's a Chinese term called injecting chicken blood, which means
That's funny.
It means you're fired up. You're like all coked up.
Yeah.
You're
yeah,
like
yeah.
over hyper, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I can see it.
usually a term has a etymology of thousands of years. Not this one. This one's actually from the 60s, not too long ago. So it's during the Cultural Revolution. This is a pre-Cultural Revolution. There's a guy who's not a doctor, but he's a science enthusiast. you know these guys.
I hate these guys.
These people.
A Dr. Oz, if you will.
If he's an American, he'd be storming Area 51 right now.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but this guy's special. This guy's hobby is medicine. So he went to Soviet Union. I forgot if it's Russia, but it's part of the Soviet Union, and he witnessed someone measuring the temperature of rooster blood. And it turns out it's 42 Celsius, which is about 109.
hot.
It's like 109 Fahrenheit.
And
That inspired him. He's like, holy shit, I can cure disease with this.
hot ass blood.
with no like this. He just put two and two together. Like, why? No. And then he started to inject like chicken blood into his own veins, and then he feel very hyper. And that's actually an autoimmune reaction of like a foreign foreign blood in your system. And he started to like write pamphlets and send it over to like everybody, and people started like inject chicken blood in their system. And at one point,
what's his name? Do you know?
I think write down the name. Yu Changshi, Dr. Yu. Dr. Yu, right?
Yeah.
So it got really popular at a certain point. And then there's a science committee, their medical committee. They're like, dude, you can't do this.
They shut his ass down.
Yeah, this is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So it was shut down initially. But then Cultural Revolution happened. It's all about, this is.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's all about anti-intellectuals.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are
Return to
elitists.
tradition.
Yeah, you guys are elitists. You need to listen to the people. Because, get off your high horses and everything. So because of this kind of political ideology shift, they're like, dude, this is great. Look at this guy. This is a people's scientist.
Yeah.
And they started to kind of spread it around. It became a national fad. People line up and try to get like rooster blood in their system. And I brought it up is because it's not hen blood. It's rooster blood. Even in this superstitious practice, they're like, girl chicken's not going to work.
Worthless. This is dog blood, basically. I need that.
Boy, you need that boy.
That's funny.
Little boy chicken. They want like a little young rooster.
It's always young.
They're always young.
Calf, the meat.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Or, yeah.
It was a crazy time. When you think about it, Cultural Revolution, you wake up in the morning, you first get in line to get your injection of like rooster blood, boy chicken blood.
You tell your parents.
You got all cooked up, and then you go smash somebody's houses.
You tell your parents they better apologize in public or they're going to get their ass beat.
And then
But I never understood. It was an anti-intellectual movement done by students.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because the students think about it. It's the oppressed and the oppressor. It's about power dynamic. In this education power dynamic, especially in China, it's all about respecting the teacher, or the teacher is basically acting as a parental figure. And the whole Cultural Revolution is all about smashing that kind of oppressive figure.
Yes, and the old way of thinking and whatever, sure.
So,
but it kind of reminds me of the contradictions of like January 6th, where they're like a bunch of poor people are taking on their billionaire class politicians, and who told them to do it? A billionaire.
Taking a shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yeah, but those antagonisms and those contradictions are like necessary for those kind of movements.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to have natural antagony to some degree.
Now when I thought about it must be crazy if you're like a sane person living in their era, and then you see everybody's going injecting chicken blood in their body, and the people die, by the way. They're like 40% of people have like adverse reactions, like allergy is the lowest level, and people like blood clogging up, they die from it.
I think you'll see some of this mentality now, where if you're a sane person in that era, your only choice is to pretend. Yeah,
you gotta get in line.
You look at whatever the ideology that's going to keep you alive is, or successful, or give you upward mobility. You go, yeah, that's what I am too.
Yeah,
and that's what people are doing now.
Yeah, what I love is the boy chicken element. It's very similar, because now I think about it, there's a certain region of China, I really don't want to say it so people say, oh, all China is like that. It's not true. Certain region of China has the weird tradition of like cooking eggs with little boys' pee.
I have heard about that. But also sometimes
there is one village that does it. Yeah.
I know. So it's overrepresented in the media.
And they're like, oh, Chinese people drink pee. Like, no, it's that. No. But my point is, it has to be virgin boy under the age of 8.
But again, a lot of people have like folk medicine that involves piss.
But has to be a virgin boy. So the Catholic Church really is onto something.
That's funny. They're always just looking for the best cures.
Yeah, I know. It's shared by all culture.
Like, we're just trying to help old people here. Yeah, that's all this is.
A virgin boy can be a girl.
Urine. I mean, medieval times, urine was literally used for medicine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they collect. Well, I don't know if it was medicine directly, but they would collect large of it amount and create like urea or something. And that would lead to sulfur production or something. You know what I mean? Like,
God.
They used every part of the buffalo back in the day.
Every part of the buffalo?
That's an American saying. A Native American saying.
That's so interesting. I digress, but I kind of want to talk about Romanian movies for a second.
Well, just before that, we had our version of how patriarchal we are is our swear words. Like our worst swear is like, we'll tell you to go back to your mother's pussy.
Oh, our swear words is also about having sexual relationship with
Yeah.
your female family members.
Exactly. Yeah, that part. Or sometimes it'll be like, fuck your mother's ancestors, fuck your mother's gods, whatever, all that. Nothing really about your dad ever.
In China it's very regional.
Okay.
So nationally speaking, the number one curse is fuck your mother.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, it's 操你妈. Like that's like still used. In the northern region, especially the capital Beijing, they will say fuck your uncle or fuck your grandpa. But for in the south, they are only interested in, you know, having sex with your female family members.
Because they're more capitalist in the South.
Yeah.
And so they understand that the woman has more of a commodity identity there.
Yeah, and I like the variations of this curse, especially I'm from a city called Anqing. It's a very small city. We have the most vulgar dialect, and it reflects on when we don't say fuck your mother, we'll describe your mother's vagina. Be like, it's very small. I fucked your mom and your mom's vagina is small.
I fucked your mom and it sucks.
Or it's like, I fucked your mom and your mom's vagina stinks. It'll be
funny.
like, it's very specific.
Yeah.
And I'd be walking on the street and people would be like yelling at each other and saying things like that.
That's funny.
I wonder if yours is, I kind of really want to have a study about curse words in different countries to see who is the meanest.
I don't think we're the meanest. Ours, we have so many creative ones, I feel like.
Yeah.
Our joke is that like you could swear 300 different times. Or
What's the
different
most
ways.
creative curse?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
I love.
What about your family member? What do they usually
it's
say?
chafa mate. That's like fuck your mom's like part of her head.
What? You guys are
the
sick.
back of her head. We have stuff that's like fuck your mom's cross, like her specific church.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that. It's so poetic.
Yeah.
That sounds like an indie movie.
Dute Dracula is a weird one. It's like go to wherever the devil tells you to go or something. It doesn't really have the same.
You guys are very religious.
way. Oh, super.
Because you can tell
religious,
from
yeah.
those like curses.
Greek Orthodox, or I don't know, Romanian Orthodox, I guess is the specific type of Christianity that we are. But it's all the same. Greek, Russian, Romanian, it's all basically the same.
Yeah, we call it 东正教, Eastern Orthodox.
Exactly, yeah.
Like the whole Russia.
They do this thing where they pretend they're the first church. They're like, that's
They
why.
all pretend they're the first church.
But the Armenians are the first ones.
Are they?
The Apollistic, or I don't know. It's not Appalachian.
Are you religious?
No, but I like to know about everyone's things.
Ah.
And so they're like the first. The Armenians were the first group to accept Christianity and make it part of their state infrastructure. They did it like in the first century.
Is that also why? Is that also part of the reason for like anti-abortion, or that has very little to do with your religious belief?
I don't think so, because the communists were on paper state religion atheism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a very, very religious sort of fascist rule before the communists.
Yeah.
And almost everybody that's democratically been elected has been, very openly super religious, socially conservative. They've never really fucked with abortion. They've maintained the right of it.
Interesting.
But the communists were like, yeah, no, this is because it was when you have a centralized system, you'll understand. It's very easy to just be like, I don't care what people are saying here. We need to do this. We need to have this goal accomplished, and we're going to do it by this time. And that's it. There's no discussion on it. We're just doing it.
That's why it's efficient. It is.
It did create a huge fucking crisis in multiple phases. The worst was after the government fell. Mm-hmm. When the government fell, all these kids that were unneeded and unwanted and whatever, that were ending up in state-run orphanages, the orphanages were told that, like, hey, the money's about to run out in a couple of weeks. You're closing down.
So where are they going?
They went to the streets.
They become homeless?
Exactly, yeah.
Damn.
There's some documentaries online. One is called The Children of the Streets. One I think is called Children of the Auralak. Auralak is after communism fell from all the way to East Germany to Russia, drugs started proliferating. It's the first thing.
Yeah.
But they couldn't even get regular drugs.
Like
drugs
sniffing glue?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's really what they started
Shoe
sniffing
glue.
Shoe glue. Auralak was prevalent, which is like this type of like silver paint in Romania. You see kids with silver all over their fucking face and stuff.
Dude, that sounds like Mad Max when they spray like this
Absolutely.
thing on there.
Yeah. It's like, because it makes you really insane. Your life expectancy is like 10 years after you start using it for frequently.
Now
you know?
I think about it, chicken blood probably is a form of crack. It's just
I
you
imagine,
can't, you
I
know?
imagine chicken blood did nothing. I imagine it was a placebo or whatever. Or at worst, you got some host versus graft.
But people got really hyped up. They're like really energetic.
But I bet they were just doing what people do in church. I think they were just pretending.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you got like a pig's heart valve installed in you, you wouldn't be like, God, I'm so fat and I love mud all the time. You would just keep
We
living.
like to experiment on animals.
We do experiment on animals.
Like we no. What I mean is like we'll have like medicine wine and you soak like tiger penis in it, and men believe it will increase their libido.
That's what I call the Chinese blind spot.
I love the connection they make. It's like that guy was like, oh, 42 Celsius.
Yeah.
Cures everything.
Must
it's like,
be.
how did you come up with it? No, that is just it is.
It's not even like it's not a sterile temperature.
Yeah. So Chinese will believe if you eat a penis, your penis will grow.
Penis will grow.
If you eat an eye, it's good for your eye.
You are what you eat.
Yeah, that they believe you are what you eat exactly and literally.
Romanian people are afraid of air conditioning.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like genuinely. Not
you guys
even.
it's very cold, right? In general.
It is. It's cold and mountainous, but
Yeah.
it is kind of temperate. It's about like the same, whatever that latitude, longitude, whatever that line is.
Yeah.
Where we're like kind of similar to like Chicago or Canada,
Okay.
southern Canada. So it's like pretty cold in the winter, but it starts to get really hot in the summer, and especially in the last 20 years, like with global warming and everything.
Yeah.
What's the Chinese word for global warming or climate change? What do you call it?
全球变暖.
Okay.
Or we say 温室效应, like the what do you call it? Warm room effect, whatever.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Wet bulb, I think, is something.
Wet bulb?
Isn't that the big fear with like 30% of China? That's why you guys take global warming seriously.
We take it very China is
seriously.
a weird country, yeah.
No, that's not weird.
And no. Contrary to your controlling, contrary to you controlling like people's like reproduction, we control it on the opposite.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. We're all about abortion.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want to get an abortion, we will make sure you
might
get an abortion.
You might get two. Yeah.
It's interesting because they're both communist, but they're like two different ends of the same issue.
They both kind of like.
It's about controlling the population.
It's about controlling the population, but to a certain end. It's not just for control. It's like, hey, we have a certain goal. We're trying to get stability, sustainability, whatever. But one of the things China did better than a lot of the European communists is they would learn from their kind of overreaches and fuck-ups. And they would make it like a big policy to learn. And sometimes that turned into like a craze. They'd be like, come critique us. And even that turned out very bad.
This is the advice for any like intellectuals or people under a communist regime. If the government tell you, listen, we're all about listening to your advice and opinions, don't say anything. Because that's how they round you up.
Most of the time that's true, yeah.
Like, because before the Cultural Revolution doesn't happen overnight.
No.
People thought it was like, oh, suddenly there's this crazy frenzy of no. Before Cultural Revolution started in 1966, lasted for 10 years, ended in 1976. The communist government took over China in 1949. So that's about 16 years in between. And between that 16 years, there's about like at least 7 to 8 different nationwide political cleansing.
Yeah.
Before that, and every time there's a different theme. It's like a party.
And Great Leap Forward, when is that?
The Great Leap Forward is in the 60s.
62. So it kind of
it has an overlap
of
Cultural Revolution kind of started right after the Great Leap Forward.
Yeah.
And Great Leap Forward also collides with the Great Famine, which Ukraine experienced.
Similar
if you look at communist countries like track record, you will see a lot of things happened. It's very predictable. Like if you look at Cuba, if you look at North Korea, it's just the timing is different. North Korea, the famine happened in the 90s. For us, it's the late 50s and early 60s. That's our famine. When does the Ukraine famine? I think it's before, like the 40s or something.
The famous one that people call the Holodomor is like 31 or something like that.
So
but
different time codes.
The USSR has like 2 famines before that too.
Yeah.
One of which I believe the US, that one was before the Ukraine one in the 30s. There was one in the 20s that was so bad the US sent grain to them. They weren't exactly.
And they took it?
Absolutely. They weren't really ideological enemies yet.
Yeah.
They were like, I don't really like what this is. But same how the U.S. is like friends with monarchies now. And they're like, we can work together. They were kind of still sniffing each other out.
You know.
In that respect.
Like evaluating their bets, basically.
Yeah. And like World War I ended in this weird way where like the Allies got an advantage from Russia having their revolution and retreating from the war.
While we have the famine, China is sending food to Soviet Union
I know.
because we're basically the de facto vessels. We're one of the vessels of Soviet Union for a while, and then something happened.
Very small amount. Very small amount.
But
of time.
there's about
6 years really.
Yeah, there's like a 6-year period that China thought we're gonna get nuclear bombed by Russia. That's why they start to build, like we start to build a lot of bomb shelters.
Yeah.
And in China, there's this term called first tier city, second tier, third tier.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I thought, it's because the first tier is the best cities. Second tier is, it's by size. No, the tier is that's our line of defense.
Yeah.
It's like if Russia attack us with nuclear power, the first tier city this one will fall first, second tier last, and third tier is going to be like the inner cities, the ones like in southwest.
First they take Chinese
like Sichuan.
Cincinnati, then Chinese Ann Arbor. Then
That's what's called tiers, 三线.
I know.
That's what it's called.
It
It's
shows
so
you-
interesting.
There, at the time in the 20th century, the sort of, let's say, conservative leaning, but liberals too, like the Western, capitalist kind of mindset was that, all of these left-leaning forces, all these types of communists are like in Congress and working together.
No.
Not
They
even
don't like.
once. Not even once on accident.
Yeah.
Never. It was always backstabbing, hand job trading, bullshitting, whatever. And it's because of where they were coming from. If you look at these societies before communism, they had way worse amounts of famines, no level of centralized education. No one bothered to figure out if women could read or if they could have children. They didn't even keep good records. They just didn't care. And it's not that the communists were moral in any capacity where they were like, we need to do better, hand on our heart. They would say that shit. That doesn't matter at all. They're just like, we have to compete with these other countries that are 100 years ahead of us.
It
And
kind of...
creates
I
antagonism.
kind of forgot to continue that thought. It's like when I say, if the communist government tell you, you should tell us what you really think, you should just shut the fuck up, because
never.
that's exactly what they did in the 50s. Is the
Absolutely.
Chinese government tell all the intellectuals, look, we are open to all your
2
advices.
times, I think.
And whatever, and then some dumb fucks, some dumb intellectuals, oh my god, I'm gonna tell the truth. And
Well, they would have like public forums.
now
You'd
they
have-
have the list. Now
Yeah.
they're like, okay, these motherfuckers,
Yeah.
we need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
That's how they like round you up. Yeah, that's what they do.
It's same system. I mean, USSR has a similar thing where they were always doing compromat on each other.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
What's that?
Compromat is like where you create an opportunity for blackmail.
For blackmailing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like the first country, the first country to liberalize same-sex relations is the USSR.
Is that serious?
You can look it up. Yeah.
Oh, holy shit! I didn't know that.
Lenin's thought was he'd send a bunch of people to the Sex Institute in Berlin, which is like the most progressive sex, whatever. He goes, we need to modernize or whatever.
East Berlin or West Berlin?
It's 1920, so there's no division.
Okay,
yet.
gotcha.
Pre that.
Yeah.
Weimar Republic.
Yeah. Okay.
In between the 2 wars. So they tell him a bunch of progressive stuff, and he goes, whatever they say, that's what we're doing. They're not exactly that, but they decriminalize same-sex relations.
Wow. So
Then-
decriminalize meaning they're not gonna be thrown in jail,
They just, you could, it's
Okay.
norm and some level of normalization.
but they're not allowed to get married. It's
I think
not
they
like
I don't
that.
know.
They are?
I don't remember
be
the
crazy.
specifics, but I think, yeah. So then Stalin comes to power after Lenin dies, and he wants to rehabilitate the church.
Mm-hmm.
Because he realizes the church is a good way to reach poor people.
Right.
And one of the things the church wants, they're like, hey,
We don't like the
too
homosexuals.
much gay.
Yeah.
Can you roll that back? And Stalin had been a member of the church and the seminary. He was a very rural, provincial guy. So he's like, yeah, of course. His opinion of gay people, he's like, gay is like a capitalist decadency. Like it's like a luxury.
That's
You have
which
so much
is-
money, you get
which
bored.
is ironic because Stalin looks like a leather daddy.
I know. You ever seen the young pictures of Stalin? Everyone's like, wow, what a
Any
snack.
picture
Yeah.
of Stalin with that,
Yeah.
it's like literally a member from the Village People.
But it's just, they had a very funny misunderstanding. And that's one of the big, downsides to a lot of the leftist regimes is like they're not socially progressive in the way that Americans and Western
That's why I
European
always
liberals think
laugh
about them.
when there are certain Americans who, like extreme liberals, naive ones, they kind of have this rose-tinted version of like what communism is, and they think is a good thing. Depends on the definition. Maybe the communism they think in their head is the one that Karl Marx was envisioning in his books,
yeah.
which never ever happened in history. but
No.
maybe one day we will achieve that.
Not really.
But if they think the communism refers to like what actually happened, in the USSR, in China, in North Korea, I think they're just not informed enough.
Well, I haven't met many of them who are like, there's not a lot of like American leftists who are like, I like the USSR and I like China.
But they're like, we like socialism.
They like socialism
Yeah.
on paper.
Yeah.
This is what happened throughout the 20th century. One of the biggest guys who was always criticizing socialism, George Orwell, he was a Western socialist.
Yeah. Yeah.
He just didn't like
the author of 1984.
Yeah, I know. He just didn't like he didn't like functional socialism. He didn't like how it took place. Now, one of the antagonisms there is like all of these ideas that Marx had were for super developed countries. Germany, Britain, the United States, even, whatever. So when you implement them in places that never even experienced capitalism, really, they were already feudalistic societies, basically, it's going to create a horror, nightmare sort of situation. But what nobody really stands around and talks about is like, even through that horror, they kind of grew economically and got some Gini coefficient benefits and whatever. And it's like, it's not the way you want to do it, but it's the best of a bad situation. That's one thing you can describe it as.
So the whole turmoil lasted from 1949 to, I want to say, 1978. So the whole time in China,
Mao's death and the Gang of Five take over.
Yeah, the communist experiment failed miserably. The whole country is torn apart.
Well, depending on who you ask. Some people say it's still going.
Is torn apart. It's crazy shit happened. Millions of people prosecuted and everything. And then this leader called Deng Xiaoping, you probably know it.
Of course.
He is very sneaky. I like his mindset. He's like, yeah, but we can have this, we can borrow some good stuff from capitalism. Because before that, it's like capitalism is bad. Everything about it is bad.
Yeah, and he's like, we're being too ideological.
So he has this very famous quote. It's like, no matter if you're a white cat or a black cat, as long as you catch the mouse, you're a good cat. Yeah. Sounds like a racial comment, but it's not.
Well, a lot of it was...
He opened up the country,
he had a lot of dialogue with the Singapore leader. Who's that guy?
Li Guangyao. I know how to say it in Chinese.
Yeah.
Who is a dictator, which is funny.
Absolutely. But he's a capitalist dictator.
Still, to this day, Singapore is controlling his family.
It's a one-party state and everything, but nobody jerks them off. They're like, I'm worried about mainland China. Whatever. So, because the CIA doesn't care about Singapore. They're like, that's good stuff for us.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of cultural and economic and institutional exchange between those two leaders, between Deng and the leader of Singapore. He was like, hey, if you stop broadcasting all this communist radio and Cantonese and or Mandarin over here in Singapore, I might help you with some of your I might tell you how, but we got to work together and stop being so antagonistic. And I think that's one thing that a big advantage Deng had over Mao is that he's like...
Also, Deng has experience. He actually studied in France in early 20th century.
That's true. I know.
He actually is an intellectual per se.
Yes.
Mao's background is he works in the library.
Mao and Stalin are similar. They are provincial guys who overcome their circumstances and they use their hard youth or whatever to do fucked up things, but necessary things.
To an extent, Mao is a very punk rock person.
Sure.
And punk rock in this case is like a neutral term. It's not positive nor negative.
But Deng is like Lenin. Lenin is also very much cultured. He got to grow up in, London and Germany and all these different places. And, he saw more of the world and understood things from a different perspective. Deng, similarly, he's like, if we have to take one step backwards to take 3 steps forward, that's fine. That's totally okay. I think since Deng's time, that's still been mostly the mentality of the
but that's the start of everything. That's the start of the economic growth, although with its problems and stuff like that
too. The new economic policy from 1919 to 24 or whatever was the same kind of compromise,
but then it was overturned.
It ended at some point, or it became, maybe it should have been more liberalized, who knows, whatever, right? But it was still, they proved from the very beginning, they're like, no, sometimes we do have to compromise, sometimes we have to use the market, sometimes we have to compete in the market even. But the end result is to try to do away with it or something. I don't know if that's still the end result of the state of the
I would say China is more, to a certain extent, more capitalist than any country in the world. To an extent, certain aspects.
In what way?
Of
what do
it.
you mean? Like lack of regulation?
Lack of regulation. Also, it's a land of, I don't know about recent years because it's just too complicated to comment.
When did you leave?
I left China in 2015.
Okay.
When I left, I think the economy was pretty good.
It's great.
was great. I think
Xi had been in power
the
4
tech
years.
booming is still going on, you know?
Yeah.
Like they're like
I mean, it's still the second biggest economy.
it is, but like recently it's not going so well after COVID. Like for
The
normal
growth
people,
is not the same.
yeah, but when I left, I would say people's lives are pretty overall pretty good.
Yeah.
And people are making like a lot of money. And in China, when I say it's a land of opportunity, is the market is so big. If you have an idea, any idea, a product, a company, or whatever, you can just go do it. And you have a huge sample to like try and error. And then unless you do something really fucked up, you know, or as long as it's not anti-government or anti-ideology, you can do whatever you want.
It's an economic miracle like no one's seen in the last 30 years, where they've been able to, at the exploitation of about 300 million people, they've been able to raise 800 million people from poverty to the global middle class.
And that's, I think, a big part of it is thanks to Deng Xiaoping, because even after his death, he appointed the person who was supposed to take over, and basically that person carried on his vision for the next 10 years.
And he was never really the leader.
He's not a leader.
He was never general
He's
secretary.
the de facto. He's the de
never
facto
supreme
president.
Leader, he's never paramount leader. He was just like hanging out, chilling. He was like a type of P. Diddy, where everyone's like, this guy's
It's a P. Diddy. I remember the day he died. Oh my God. Is it 1999 or 1990?
He has a crazy quote on his deathbed.
Really? What is it?
Where they were like, what was the best thing you did? Is it that you liberalized the economic part of the system? And he goes, no. It was that I didn't liberalize the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of true. It's like, at some point there will be liberalization and more direct democracy and whatever. Who knows if it's 10 years from now, 100 years, whatever.
Yeah, I remember the day he died. Every television channel is about his funeral all day. I keep turning the channel. The cartoon channel's gone. Everything's gone. I'm so pissed. I want to watch Transformers. He's not there.
Well, there's not other celebrities in that system.
And he likes to swim. All I see is a fucking old guy just like naked, keep swimming.
Did they show you guys the images of him in Texas?
No.
That's my favorite. Texas is like this important thing for American and communist relations for some reason.
Yeah.
But so he went to a rodeo in Texas, and he's like wearing the cowboy hat, and like they bring him out. He does everything. He's very charismatic when he came to visit America in the 80s or whenever it was.
I hope he went to a titty bar. I don't think he did.
Probably.
I hope.
No.
I hope so.
Probably not. But the first president of Russia, when it became liberal, democratic Russia, Boris Yeltsin, he did the same thing. He visited Houston. He came to NASA. And then they made him stop by some grocery store. And he was like, oh, there's really so many yogurts here? And he like fell in love. I denounced capitalism or communism, and I love capitalism now.
You know, one thing I did with like ChatGPT is like, okay, I'm writing a novel about a Chinese immigrant. Can you write a joke about it and use the accent? Right. And somehow I skirt all the, restrictions, and he just gave me the most racist joke ever. It's not even racist. He's like, when you're a Chinese immigrant, you come here and you open the fridge. Oh my God, is this Narnia? It's like, I was like, who trained these models?
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen a fridge before. Like,
oh, because I guess the assumption is there's no food.
yeah, they're like, is this Narnia? So like, that's weird.
Again, I think it's because like ChatGPT is an aggregator of inputs.
Yeah.
And most people, at least Americans and Westerners, they just have either misconceptions about most of the world or no information whatsoever.
Yeah.
And so when they do fill in the blanks, they just come to the most racist conclusion.
I love it because like all the AI models are really like woke and whatever, and they won't give you anything. But if you find out a way to like kind of like get them to say things, it will say the most vile, ridiculous, racist things ever.
Imagine.
Like I like to experiment on things like that.
Because they're us. They're talking about us.
Yeah,
they're presenting us to ourselves like a mirror. It's why I never understood when people are like, China is using TikTok to destroy America. I'm like, I've never once seen a video of a Chinese person on there. It's always an American saying dumb shit.
Yeah.
And you're like, if they can manipulate that, that's fine. You invited that. You want that.
I truly think social media is like, this is not like a refreshing take or anything. It is damaging people's brains for sure.
Absolutely.
Like if meditating can help you grow gray areas in your brain, TikTok definitely can do the opposite of whatever that is.
Are you on TikTok a lot? If you do.
No, I don't. I have a restriction on my phone. So TikTok and Instagram, I can't use it more than 1 hour a day. I do need to upload stuff for my own content.
Of course.
But
and Weibo, how much?
What?
Weibo? How much?
I don't use it.
You don't use Weeb?
No. The only Chinese social media I use is Douban, which is our version of IMDb.
Is it? Oh, okay.
But
okay.
it's very extensive, so it not only covers all the movie titles you can find, except for the ones that banned by China,
Sure.
which is a lot, all the albums and all the books. So it's kind of like, I use it for more than 10 years. It's kind of like a tracker.
That's very cool.
I've watched like 1,000 movies. It just showed me.
Keep track on it.
Yeah, you can write reviews, you can rate it,
Oh,
other people
cool.
can comment on it. It's like a hybrid of IMDb and Reddit
Wow.
and Weibo. It's weird. Yeah.
That's a lot of
It's
incel
one of
energy.
it's one of my favorite. Dexter is banned.
Really?
Yes, because it's too bloody.
Of course.
Chernobyl is banned
Sure.
in China because they don't like it. It got one of the highest ratings on this app that I was telling you about. It got like 9.7 out of 10.
That would be
which
funny
is
to, like-
probably the highest rated title on that website. That's why the government's like, okay, this is not about us. It's about the USSR, but communism, we don't want to
Too friendly. Too close.
too anti-communism. So they banned
I like
that.
when they let a movie in, but then they'll edit a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Like with Fight Club, I heard that they make the last scene or whatever. They're like, all the criminals were arrested and nothing bad. Which I'm not sure if that's Western propaganda.
It is true.
Or if it's true.
It is
Okay.
true.
That's
Yeah,
cool. That's
it is
funny.
true. And there's certain, like, for example, Chernobyl's never, like, HBO's never legal in China. So it's the title, it's never
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
When I say it's banned, it's
Yeah.
not like you can't play it. It's you can't find it
Can't find
online.
it.
It doesn't exist.
What's VPN like? I mean, I've heard it's like varies.
You have to use VPN.
Of course, yeah.
It's like I think last time I talked about it, one of the most rudimentary VPN that Chinese netizens used is all sponsored by this cult called Falun Gong,
Falun Gong,
which is I already talked about it last time.
That's a genius
long-lived cult.
If you were banned in the country,
yeah,
but when you still want to get your message out,
yeah,
you offer a commodity everyone needs for free.
and then the VPN has a great name. This is like, I want to say at least 15 years ago.
What's it called?
15, 18 years ago. There are two versions. The first version is called Freedom Gate, Zeo Niu, which is great fucking name. It's the best name I've ever heard,
Sounds
right?
like a Jim Jones
So,
thing.
like I said, when you download the software, there's a zip file, and you unzip it,
yeah.
the software, and the anti-government
So
pamphlet.
funny.
It was just great way to spread the word, right?
It's like if the Jehovah's Witnesses gave out AOL CDs here.
they will be more effective.
They would,
It would be
yeah.
really, yeah. It's like, or like give out like Playboy,
We
put
shouldn't
on the
give them
back.
ideas.
It's like the first.
Yeah.
And the second version is called No Boundaries. It's called 无界.
That's a great name.
They're so good.
They're great at marketing. Epoch Times, even you're like,
Epoch
oh,
Times sounds
what
big.
is an epoch? What is that?
It sounds like big. It sounds like big time, right?
Yeah,
It
it just
doesn't
sounds old. It has like institutional, traditionalist.
It's like, yeah, this sounds like the New York Times or
exactly.
like the Washington Herald.
Yeah.
You know, it
You're
sounds like
why
that.
is this only available in Vietnamese restaurants? Whatever. Okay, whatever. I never thought about it.
Why do I like Trump so much? Because it's all about how
Yeah.
Trump is the chosen one
Yeah.
by Buddha.
Yeah.
You know. Why is that? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But if you want to do any kind of work and you visit like foreign website, you need to use VPN.
You have to.
And
so you're never gonna go back, you think?
I went back a few times.
Oh, you did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I went back like recently. Yeah,
That's awesome.
but I'm the only person from my family who
I want to
who
go.
lives here. You should. I got very bad food poisoning when I got back,
I imagine. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna.
and it's not because the food is not hygienic. I think it
It's
just
the water, right? That's the.
no. Listen, I went back with my boyfriend. My boyfriend's fine.
Mm.
I'm the one who's puking from day 1 to like day 7, and then the moment I got on, the moment I'm at the waiting gate in the airport to leave China, it stopped. I'm serious.
Your body knew. You're like,
My
"Oh,
body
okay,
was like, okay, we're okay now.
We're good.
I remember I'm at the Hongqiao International Airport of Shanghai, and just everything just like,
Yeah.
I was puking. You know, I can't eat anything for like all week. Just at the gate when I'm waiting for the plane, it's like, we're good.
Wow.
We're cool. And it's not, when I say food poison, it's not like certain food has poison in it. Like, it's my mom's cooking. Actually, my mom's been poisoning me all these years.
That's what happens to us. I mean, when I go back to Romania, it's always the water that'll trip me up.
Maybe it's the bacteria level or the acidity. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like you're not used to that regional bacteria or something.
Maybe it's
That's
an allergic reaction. I was think.
It can be, but
But
it's just we eat different kinds of things over here. You got used to the Guaylo cuisine. What are you gonna do?
Because I haven't been back for 6 years this time. And then the last time I visited was only 2 years apart.
Yeah.
But the first time I went back, it was fine. I eat okay. But I don't know. Maybe it's my body is in the different environment for 6 years.
Sure.
And kind of just it just doesn't recognize anything. But Japan is fine too. I go to Japan. Dude, Japanese food is so good.
It's the best.
The cooking is okay. I'm talking about the ingredients.
And you trust them?
I fucking love Japan. Okay, I'm gonna cut this part out. But
I like Japan.
I
like the Japanese culture, but I'm also very scared of Japan.
Yeah, they did some gnarly shit.
If you like history and you read about Japan, you're like, oh shit, this is crazy.
I went to college in the city called Harbin, which is the city when they did the human body experiment.
Yeah.
When I say human body experiment, I'm not talking about dead bodies. I'm talking about they will do bacteria.
So you're from the north. You're from
No, I'm not. I went to college there, but I'm from the mid south.
Oh, okay.
So similar to Mississippi, my hometown is close to the Yangtze River.
Whoa,
it's a river town, and it's Anhui province. Our biggest export is construction workers and nannies. We're the Philippines of China. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, a lot of people there. Force. Yeah, it's a province with a long history.
People have great opinions there, is what you're saying.
Great. What do you mean, great opinions?
It's a joke I'm making about provincial mindsets.
Oh, well, yeah. The joke kind of went over my head.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Or under.
Yeah. Actually, I went to Harbin, and that's the city when they did the. So what happened is in World War II, Japanese army will capture Chinese civilians, and then they would just cut them open, or they would have a pregnant women and cut their open to see what the fetus is doing. They would have different bacteria to observe, and these people are still alive.
It's no wonder they were such natural friends with Hitler.
Yeah, the
same
fascists.
Guys, they were like, we're just trying to do the same thing. We're just trying to do some experiments here.
That's it still bugs me. I still don't quite understand how. It's kind of like what the Germans did to the Jews, right? And what Japanese did to us and the Koreans in World War II.
Same level.
It's how can you do something to another creature that breathes like you, that has a family, has emotions, can laugh, can cry, can
That's what I'm
feel.
saying.
How can you?
I'm not trying to be racist, but I'm a little suspicious sometimes of Japanese people. I'm because that's what you're capable of.
Yeah.
If you read about history, there's so many of the massacres of the massacre. There's only one, the rape of.
Yeah.
The rape of Nanking.
Rape of Nanking. Yeah.
You're Jesus Christ, and that was in the 20th century.
It is. It is
crazy.
It's in the 40s.
Yeah.
And I think the official number is 300,000.
And so I don't know. There's a mentality in the West where they're about Germany and Italy and
they don't talk
Japan.
About
They're that was back then.
Yeah.
You're that was so my grandparents.
Was so recent.
My grandparents were alive.
Yeah.
My grandparents are older than that thing.
Mm-hmm. So that explains the anti-Japanese sentiment in China. What we do right now is we make.
Yeah, it's not based on nothing.
I know we make countless anti-Japanese televisions and movies every year. It's like a quota you have to meet.
I'm not.
I get it.
I'm not anti-Japanese.
Yeah.
I have a lot of love for a lot of Japanese people, Japanese things. But what's funny is the same criticisms that people had of Japan economically in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Oh, they're just a copycat. They make the cheap stuff. Whatever.
Yeah, that's what we're doing now.
That's what people say about China now. And so you go, so don't you think that means that they have the potential to evolve in the way Japan did, where you go, wow, their technology is going to be more than competitive. This is going to be the market leader. And people go, no, because it's China. They don't have the
Because they kind of forgot. When people think about Japanese products, they're like, oh, they last long. They're good quality, blah, blah, blah. No, for a period of time, they're very famous for making bad shit, like
It's
cheap.
terrible, like the
It
worst
breaks down
possible
very
thing.
fast,
Yeah,
you know? Just like their stereotypes about Chinese products.
It's how everybody start. You want to start competing in a market. You're not going to be very good at first.
Yeah, you got to learn. You got to use your cheap labor.
But if your parents somehow sponsor you in a way so you can stay in that market longer than you deserve to, like the U.S. might.
America gives so much money to
America has so many Israelis.
They're like, okay, I want to say Japan is probably America's favorite stepson.
This is my joke.
Favorite Asian. Okay, America is Angelina Jolie, and Japan is the Asian kid.
Japan is
she adopted.
Asian Israel.
What do you mean?
America has a couple Israels.
Okay, so step children. Yeah.
Just children that it lets behave however they want.
Yeah,
and then when you go, hey, you can't let your kid behave this way.
You can't do that.
That's my son.
Yeah.
Fuck you. And you go, but you said people can't behave that way. And you go, yeah, but that's my son.
You say about things like humanitarian.
Yeah.
You know what's so interesting? Is every time I post a video that's about China that's not positive, people are like, you're like American propaganda. You're paid by the American government. But every time I say something that's like not about the negative part about China, maybe I'm criticizing America, they're like, you're paid by the Chinese government.
It's the funniest thing.
All these time, I'm like, where are all the money that I'm owed by both governments?
Great. Where's my Jack Ma
I
check?
know.
Like, and here's the thing. If you're obsessed with Japan and Japanese stuff, people are like, yeah, that's fine. They even have funny little cute little words. Oh, he's a weeb.
Yeah.
You're like, what if I'm obsessed with China? You're like, the CIA is going to know about that.
Yeah, you are.
It's a problem.
It's very sus. And
you're like, I love Sun Yat-sen. He's fucking cool.
I feel like I have this idea. I think Japan is the perfect place to have an incel birthright trip. You know what I mean? I think school shooting rate will drop by 300%. If you just every year you just you put all the incels on the plane.
Yeah.
You send them to Japan. They go to the maid cafe, right? They play video. They go to a video game tournament. They go to like
it's so funny.
The Super Mario shop, the Capcom shop, you know, and they go to the woods if they want to kill themselves. To kill yourself, don't kill the kids.
They make them answer Star Trek trivia to prove they're real incels when they board the plane.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I went to Japan and they have this bookstore and there are 10 different levels. Level 5 is all about trains.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, cultural autism.
It says just train. The whole thing, usually the levels are, this one, young adults, manga, blah, blah, blah. That one, there's just ones that train.
Fat.
And everything about trains, all the merch. I bought some train merch. I'm not even into trains.
Like a conductor's hat? What's train merch? A pass?
Train merch means in Japan, there are a lot of different train systems. There's a Shinkansen, which is the high-speed train you take from like Osaka to Tokyo.
Yeah.
There's like intercity trains.
Intercity and then metro.
And every train system will have its own merch. They have a little mascot.
I love trains, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not talking shit.
I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big public transit.
They have like mascot, and all the mascot who have their own, you know, pencil bags, you know, their own like keychain.
Do you know about like the American concept of a train?
What do you mean American concept of a train?
It's a sex term.
Like run a train on someone?
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Right. As long as you know. I don't want to be the first person to tell you.
Yeah.
But
do you just run around and tell like immigrant
cultural
women,
exchange.
Hi, do you know what
That's
train
what I call
means?
it. Cultural exchange.
Cultural
You teach me
exchange.
something about like the Bolshoi, and then I'll teach you about gangbangs.
Have you been to Japan?
No.
You should go.
I might.
It's a great place.
I
to
want to go
travel.
to Japan as well. I'm interested, but I more want to go to China.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a bigger priority.
Because of your communism, it's still tingling.
It's just who knows how maybe at some point they won't let foreigners necessarily.
That is true.
So I'm like, let me go do it while I can.
That is true.
But also, yeah, I want to see Mao's grave and bow to it.
Okay. Speaking of Mao's grave, Mao doesn't have a grave.
He has a...
his body is still preserved.
I know. Well, I call it a
memorial
grave, but
hall.
it's a mausoleum.
Okay, so is
And
Mao
Lenin, too.
and Lenin
as well.
Are they the only two
So here's the
world
funny
leader
story.
that's mummified?
The funniest... I mean, he kind of, yeah.
So what happens is...
Wait, hold on. Where's...
in Beijing.
No, I know that. But where's Kim? Where's Kim Il-'s son?
Oh, I actually don't know.
Right? They probably are preserved the same way.
Communist leaders love to get their body
But it doesn't
mummified.
like, because it never happened in Poland or the Czechoslovakia or Yugoslavia. That's really
Okay,
just...
let me ask you this question. Is that Lenin's wish?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I really don't think so. Because in the last year of his life, he was like a stroke victim.
Yeah.
So he was barely even communicating. People were writing all kinds of shit pretending to be him. And so I think things
So
were just...
both Chairman Mao and Lenin's bodies are mummified and displayed, right?
Stalin's
it's still
too, though.
Stalin's too.
So when Stalin died in 1953, he's also gets a mausoleum in Red Square or whatever, right? But then Khrushchev has like this speech. Maybe it's 1956 when he died. I don't remember. But Khrushchev gives a speech where he's like, Stalin was a piece of shit and he was a terror leader and he scared all of us, whatever. And they did like this period of de-Stalinization, which is what offended Mao.
Yeah.
Because Mao's like, that's my buddy. We beat Hitler together.
Yeah.
We did a war.
They were tight, yeah.
We won the World War.
So what
together.
did they do to Stalin's body?
They took it from the where it was it was next to Lenin's.
Yeah, the Memorial Hall or something.
Yeah, so they took it from there and they buried him underground in the necropolis or whatever it's called. Like, it's right outside the walls of the Kremlin or something.
Yeah, Mao still has his in the Memorial Hall in Beijing, and then you have to pay a ticket to like get in line to see it.
I believe it.
And that's why he has a nickname. It's called Pickled Meat. I'm serious. Like, because if you want to talk about him without getting like flagged online,
in trouble,
sometimes you just say pickled meat because that's such a common word. You can't ban that word.
You can't ban
like,
that.
That's in our everyday meal. It's like, it's like sausage, but pickled meat is kind of different from sausage.
I also love the official line on Mao. They're like 70% good, 30% bad.
I don't know about that percentage, bruh.
It's very funny.
I've seen one thing. He's a punk rock star.
He might have been 50-50. He might have been 60-40 bad. I don't know. He might have been worse, better than he was good.
It depends on who you are.
But he's interesting in the sense of like, Americans are obsessed with their founding fathers.
Yeah.
But they don't really care about other people's founding fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And the same way that like the weird 20 to 40-year-olds that we had for America were necessary, Mao's also necessary. Without him doing a bunch of crazy shit and kind of testing the political structure and fortitude of that early state, I don't think China is able to ascend to where it is today.
He has
to make those mistakes for people to be like,
the one thing communism in China
that.
did that's actually inadvertently good to women is like, there are a lot of discrimination, whatever, but because of the one-child policy, a lot of families for a long period of time can only have one kid. And if that kid is a girl and she lived, they're going to invest the same resource, money, education to the same woman. And that's why the education rate amongst women just go up because of that reason.
Yeah, that's even a lot of the anti-communist guys in Romania, they're always like, yeah, you got to give it to them. They did like emancipate women and make them more like full citizens and stuff. I'm like, that's not a small thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, we've had every kind of regime. We've had fascism, monarchy, democracy, and communism in the span of 1 century in Romania. Only one of them cared about poor people and women and whatever. And it was these guys that were horrific.
Yeah.
These guys that were like really scary. And it's hard for people
from
to parse
their point
through
of
that.
view, it's all tools to yield results.
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
look at
why
it-
let the 50% of the population stay dormant?
They look at it like the boss of a company where they're like, I don't care about my employees. I just want to make them better so that they're more productive and
I
make more
want
money.
every single unit to
Money for
function.
me, yeah.
So more yields for the nation.
So, but you're allowed to look up. You're allowed to be like, I love big business. Everyone's like, you're a good guy. But if you're like, I think what Deng and Mao did was kind of cool. Everyone's like, oh, you're a psychopath. You're insane. I'm like, because they help poor people. Like, you don't like poor people?
Yeah, I want to say to that extent, like regions, like other Chinese cultural influenced regions, like Taiwan, Hong Kong, which is part of China, and
I don't
Singapore,
talk about the ROK. No.
Okay. Whatever. They are part of China. And I think those regions actually have more of a deeply rooted misogyny than the mainland. I'm not saying there's no misogyny in the mainland.
It's measurable.
But because they didn't go through cultural evolution, which is a bad thing, it's not like it's a great thing to go through.
That. They just did. It wasn't part of their constitution. It wasn't implemented. Where like we look at Romania, we look at Russia now. You go, those are not matriarchal societies. Those are heavily still anti-feminist patriarchal societies. Which begs the question: how bad would it have been if they weren't forced to, for 80 years, at least treat women like pretend equals? Who knows how that would
Well, you pretend enough, you will have like real life, results.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't start from 0 to 100. You have a bunch of steps in the way.
You know what? In that sense, I actually think that's one of the arguments for affirmative action, which a lot of Asians in America are against.
Yeah, but if you didn't use it like if you didn't talk about like the
I
racial
feel like
lines or
equality
whatever,
in equality in formality is the first step before the equality in reality. Does it make sense?
absolutely. If you didn't tell them the specific history, you could say, "Hey, this one group of people created a lot of economic value for the country. They're a minority group, and now they're a little bit behind. So if we invest in them more,
Yeah.
they will either catch up or even over accomplish or whatever." Everybody will say yes to that.
Yeah.
Once you start putting the specifics in, you go.
But here's the thing: a lot of people are against. A lot of them are Asian Americans because we excel in academia. That's just a fact.
Sure.
And then because of affirmative action, it hurts the Asian community the most, which I understand. So basically, those quota are given to like other demographics, usually Hispanics and African Americans. Strangely, the whites are not affected. I think it's a scheme to have the minorities fight against
I think
each
part of
other.
it is because you guys aren't that good at sports.
Yeah.
So you're like, I'm not even going to spend an extra night out
Yes,
there.
this is all in math.
Maybe a little tennis now and again, sure, but
So their argument is, okay, a lot of those affirmative action candidates are let in despite that their scores are not as high.
yeah.
They're not qualified. And then maybe there's an Asian student who has way higher score and they will get rejected because, oh, your quota has been met.
You're overrepresented.
And then we need to let
or
in more
something.
like Hispanics and African Americans. But I understand the pain of that and the throes of it. But now, just like what we talked about, formality is first. You need that
absolutely.
kind of formality.
Also, to a lot of people, they go, this seems like an illogical solution. You go,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's correcting a problem that was illogical in the first place.
Right.
There was a long period of time where no matter how good those black people's scores were, they couldn't go to that school no matter what.
Yeah.
So now you might have a period, 10, 20 years. Okay, we have to let more people in. But that's kind of how nature does that all the time. Where you look at how like water separates and things, certain chemicals, oils, whatever. You're like, you leave them together, they will go to stasis over time. But you might have to have a weird transference for a little bit. And you go, that's not equal right there. It's fine. It's going to equal out.
Mm-hmm.
If you get in the way of that, it might not. It might make things worse and exacerbate things. So a lot of leftists, especially in America, they have this thing that they think all their solutions are the moral ones.
Mm-hmm.
This is the feel good, whatever. You go, no, dummy. It has to be the mathematical one, the one that's best for the most people, because that creates the most benefit, and then nobody comes and robs you at your house. Because if you don't if you don't give and redistribute wealth, it'll do it organically.
Yeah.
They'll steal your catalytic
Do you want a
converter.
safe environment to be rich in?
Sure, or steal your daughter and traffic her or something. You know what I mean? Like maybe you're not vulnerable, but your children might be. So everybody can be touched in some way.
Everybody can be. Are you
Bill
touched?
Cosby said that.
Okay. Bill Cosby said that. Do the voice.
Me?
Yeah.
The Cosby voice?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bill Cosby. No. It
Yeah.
wouldn't be funny if I did a deep Chinese accent.
Do it. Oh my God, do it.
No, I can't. I don't know.
Why not?
I can't even think of a good one.
You know, I can do a Chinese accent.
Do it. Yeah, let me see.
I can't.
You can't. Oh, you said you can't. Sorry,
I cannot.
I misheard.
Isn't that terrible? Like I have an accent, but it's
I
not
feel like if I did one right
like
now,
a stereotypical one, you know?
if I did a stereotypical one, you'd just be like, that sounds Vietnamese or something. You'd,
Just do it.
my name is Bill Cosby. No, I can't.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, terrible, right?
It sounds Russian to me.
No, I couldn't even start.
How old were you when you moved here?
My name, Bill Cosby. No, I can't do it. I was 3. Not even 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not.
But then here's what my parents did. They were smart. They sent me every summer to Romania for like 2 or 3 months.
Holy shit.
The whole summer.
Until how old?
14, 15.
14.
Yeah.
Do you appreciate that decision?
Yeah. And now as an adult, it's great. But as a child, I hated it.
Yeah. What's
So-
their reasoning? Like not to forget your roots, or like, look, you need to be grateful to whatever
That was
you
like
have.
the smallest part of it, but the bigger part is the grandparents are always like, "Where's the kid? We promised us all these grandchildren. I'm my only child. I don't have any brothers or siblings. Do you have any siblings?
No, only child.
Yeah.
One child policy, baby.
Oh, of course.
That's me.
I forget.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of attention, and
Mm-hmm.
people are like, I need, they would trade me off 2 weeks with this set of grandparents, 2 weeks with the other.
Wow, you're so popular.
Well, I'm a limited commodity.
Were you a loved child? Were you a hugged child?
Yeah, very much
Okay.
so. Yeah. whatever I didn't get enough from my parents, I over made up from my grandparents.
So all the hugs and love results in you
Yeah,
look
you
at
get to
this
this.
clothes, you're like, I'm not
Yeah.
wearing it today.
Degenerate,
Yeah.
just kind of loudmouth. No,
So
all.
you're white.
Yeah, I feel
You're
white.
white.
But people won't let
You're
me be white all the
definitely
time.
white. You could be dark skinned and
I-
you're white.
I
spiritually.
feel white in the sense that I do whatever I want and I don't accept consequences.
And things were figured. Okay, I think the real white privilege, it's not like what you own or whatever, because they're broke white people.
Yeah.
The real white privilege is no matter how bad things are, you're like, yeah, it's gonna be
You're like,
okay,
we'll get past this.
and it will be
And
okay,
it will.
and it will be okay.
You're like, it's gonna be hard for my lawyer, but I'll
Yeah,
be
it's
fine.
it's gonna be fine. It's gonna
And
we'll
it's
figure it out.
If I act that way, I feel like I can tap into white privilege. And
Yeah.
if I don't, and if I'm too polite and whatever, people are like,
Too like circumspect.
this
You're
is
like,
an immigrant.
yeah, just fucking do it.
And it also depends, again, like if a Hispanic person sees me, they're like, yeah, he's probably white.
Yeah.
But if Mitt Romney sees me, they're like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you whatever.
It's
yeah.
a whole different ballgame.
There's no racial slurs against Eastern Europeans.
There has to be. Are you saying in English there's
In
not?
English, not that I know of.
There are specific
If
ones.
there is one that I don't know about it, it means it's not popular.
There's weird specific ones, like for Polish people, they call them Polacks.
Oh, I know that. That sounds funny.
I know. It doesn't even,
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't sound offensive.
That sounds
in
like
any way.
Danes for Danish, which is, that's not a
Yeah.
derogative, right? Danes.
But it's, Danes is not. No, it's
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
just
yeah.
like the shortening.
Yeah.
Balkan, there's like a bunch of Balkan stereotypes, but not slurs specifically.
Because Balkans is about the peninsula, right?
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
also kind of like how people describe the American South. You're like, it's not. I can't point to it on a map and show you exactly where it starts and stops. It's more of a feeling,
Okay.
because like the South goes geographically all the way pretty far north. If you look at it, same way for Balkan. You're like, where does it? Is it like from Greece to this part of Yugoslavia? Does it include Romania and Poland and Slovenia? How far does it go? And it's like, well, it depends on how much you're trying to other somebody.
Interesting.
Because there's like the two sides of Europe. There's like the developed, liberal, cool, smart Western side, and then there's the dark, scary, sex trafficking Balkan side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to talk about the Romanian movie thing.
Let's.
before we
Yeah.
forgot.
We've dilly dallied too much on
Yeah,
politics.
So dilly dally. That's a big word.
It's a very southern, a Texan way to say you're wasting time.
It's interesting because no one gives a shit about Romanian movies in China right now, but in the 60s, it's like the biggest thing.
Oh, interesting.
Romanian movies are a lot of Chinese people's sexual awakening. I'm serious.
That's
Not
crazy
my
'cause
not my generation,
we're
but
a pretty sexually conservative society.
because we are way more conservative.
Wow.
So in the 60s, because of all the ideology, like we can't watch anything that's capitalism,
Yeah.
or all the European movies, American movies are banned, right?
Dunzo.
But Russian movies are allowed.
Russian movies, probably
And-
Albanian movies.
And Romanians are
And
allowed because
Roman-
you guys are also communists.
Yeah.
So in the 60s, there's the Romanian new wave among the Romanian film industry. And then a lot of those movies are let in China. And it's not even sexual, but you guys will kiss each other or there's one scene from a movie. This girl is doing ballet dancing. And that a lot of Chinese guys were jerking off to that back in the day.
Just the ballet dancing.
Yeah, because
That's
the
funny.
skirt is really short,
Yeah.
and they don't know what that is, and that, oh my god, this is so decadent.
That's so funny.
But in like a conservative household, right? Everything is banned, but the only thing you have is a Sears catalog.
Right.
You will look at that bra and
You will
masturbate
still
to it.
sexualize something.
Basically,
Yeah.
for the older generation, Romanian
Wow.
movies, because there are some, like in Chinese movies, like even romantic storyline was like glossed over or
That's
not.
very funny.
But Romanian movies will still talk about, oh, they're dating, they're having a fight. He's, kissing her on the cheek.
I never knew that. I had
And
no idea
oh
about
my
that.
God, this is.
I think my parents would be really entertained to find that out.
It's
Because we knew that there was like a Romanian movie demand or whatever, but only in like in the 20th century. Like we had a independent film renaissance from like 2003 to 2009 or something.
it's very interesting because I remember it's old family members like my uncle's cousin or something, whatever, something weird. an old family member told me he was a villager. So in the village, they don't have like movie theaters. What they do is they have an itinerant like projector. So those people will go from village to village. They will set up like, outdoor like theater.
Yeah.
And they put up a projector and they like play Romanian movies or Russian movies, and they all would get together from the village, and they all watch. And then he's like, yeah, it's a very hot summer night.
That's so
and then saw the ballet dancers. Oh my God, the whole legs are bare.
I knew the DPRK listened to a lot of our music and movies and stuff, so I didn't know about China.
Yeah, but that's because that's the only thing they have. Yeah, it's not because you guys are very good at it.
It's always just, well, what's around? What can we do here?
Yeah, but for a while, like if you ask my mom, what do you think of Romania? So, they have a lot of good movies. Yeah. So Romania, out of all countries.
I know, and it's funny. A lot of the people that like talk about movies back then, even if they like really didn't like the regime, or they're like it was so despicable, the secret police or whatever.
The movies is good.
They're like the movies were better.
Yeah.
Because having a lot of political censorship meant the artists had to be very subversive. They had to work around and get really creative with their workarounds. Now you can say anything, sure, but it doesn't. Not everybody is creative. And anybody can get money and say something. Like,
what's the situation there, like, in the film industry?
It's really good right now.
Oh, it is?
Because very similar to tech, you're like, well, the labor's cheaper. Like, the movie industry's always kind of bound by its unions. And they're like, yeah, we like making a lot of money, but we also don't like paying a lot of wages.
Right.
Capitalists are very picky that way.
Yeah.
So Romania's pretty good because you have a lot of crew, a lot of locations, a lot of stuff that, like, big crazy open fields, but also urban infrastructure and whatever. And it's in the European Union, so things are safe. Your money's safe. Insurance companies will work with you, all kinds of stuff like that, as well as a pretty good history of actors and like culture of theater and all that kind of stuff. So it's I don't know, it's a great place to make cheap movies.
Interesting. Yeah, I just like the fact that it's basically softcore porn.
That is funny, yeah. Unintended softcore. That was made with political censorship.
Yeah.
There was probably 3 different guys that were like, that skirt's too long or too short. Make it.
No. They're not short enough. Yeah. They're like, that's good. We're allowed to see communism legs.
Censorship creates undue circumstance. I'm not saying it's good.
Yeah.
But rules, any kind of regulation begets creativity. When you're like, you have to write the poem this way with these rules, you go, okay, it's going to make you more creative. Then it's like, just write me any poem you want. That's even how Karl Marx's books got into Russia. They had a censor during the Russian Empire. But when like Capital and all the communist stuff, whatever came through, they're like, this shit is so boring. They didn't even read it. They're just like, stamp, get through, whatever. And then poor people are reading it. They're like, this guy's right. My boss is an asshole. We should eat him for dinner.
Yeah. I do want to talk about one last thing before we go, because I think we're already done like an hour, 22 minutes.
It's flown by.
Very political, very politics.
I hate that. That's
infused.
what my calling card is.
Yeah. I want to make a prediction. Do you think more people would think I am a American propaganda device or Chinese propaganda device?
That's a great question. I think it doesn't. It's not. I can't answer it directly. It's like it depends on where they're coming from.
Right.
Because if they're conservative and they hear you talking badly about China, they're like, she's a psyop. That's a decoy.
Yeah.
Double agent or whatever. And then if they're liberal and they hear you talking bad about China, to some degree, they're like, oh, yes, of course, because they're not doing like human communists. You know what I mean? So it just really depends. If the smart money is that you're getting a little bit of money from both.
Yeah, I will be putting up my Venmo account if either government want to sponsor me.
You should get like.
I will not spread your word, but I will take your money.
You should take radio free whatever. Take that money.
Yeah.
And then also take the Guangzhou province.
Should I go
podcast.
to Epoch Times and deserve?
Well, but they're not the state though.
That's true.
They're like
they're like Scientology church.
They're like 4chan. That's like if you thought that was the American press.
They're not cool. That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing about that religion.
They're very new. 90s, right? Like 80s or 90s?
It was founded in 1992.
Yeah, that's crazy fun. I mean, Scientology which people compare it to all the time, is much older. It's from the 70s.
And Scientology's founder died. This one is still alive.
Well, he did because of how old it is.
Yeah.
It's much, but
I heard he's a horrible science fiction writer.
depending on how you like. Some people will say not a success. Some people will say, well, he wrote a lot of books, so he kind of was.
He's very prolific. Yeah.
He wrote for a publisher that paid him by the word.
I think at the time that's the common practice.
Or by the page. It was
like
the common practice for if you
fantasy and science fiction is
yeah.
always like.
So he would just work all damn day long. He didn't even care what he was.
And after
writing.
the long gaze, you know, she stood up.
And
Yeah.
out of the hundreds of books he wrote, you know, outside of the Dianetics one, only Battlefield Earth or whatever is like considered a hit.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing you got to give them is they have real estate, like some of the best real estate in every major city in the world. Every city that allows.
I think I went to the headquarters outside the building in Florida.
The one, here?
Clearwater,
Yeah.
Florida. I think it's Clearwater, Florida. It's like a huge Scientology church there.
I mean, they're in every city in America,
Yeah.
but also around the fucking world. I mean, it's except for the countries that ban them, like Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure about China. I don't know if China is an official.
I don't think so.
policy
We're
on-
really anti-religion in general.
I know.
We're very aware because of the whole Falun Gong thing.
Yeah.
That became an like a political, device. The government is basically very wary of any sort of religion, especially Christianity-based cults.
I know.
Yeah.
Which is funny. In Korea, they're like, we love Jesus.
They were like, Jesus is Korean. Jesus eat kimchi, yo.
Straight up.
Yeah.
We're like, when did you guys get so into Christianity? They're like, 1950.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's. I also think I also think it's interesting that American government would have a lot of those like foreign cults leaders pour in and in the name of political asylum.
They're like, hey, will you say that you had to eat a train for breakfast? And they're like, of course. They're like, then,
Political asylum.
and $20 million.
Yeah.
Don't use this for a Chinese 9/11,
Yeah.
please.
Okay, the one last thing I want to talk about is just a fun fact I learned recently.
Oh, hell yeah.
Treadmill is actually invented initially as a torture device for prisoners
Wow, where?
in England.
Hmm.
In the 19th century, English like civil engineer invented treadmill. You know what I mean? And they put it in prison, so as like penal labor.
Yeah.
So like you guys are being idle. You guys are like getting too comfortable.
Lazy, and it's making your spirit criminal.
Yeah, walk on this every day for this much of time. That's how it was designed. But the Americans, very sneaky, very entrepreneurial. The Americans kind of retrofitted it. Like I think it's in, I want to say the 60s. Yeah, they commercialized it. They're
That
like,
makes
yeah,
sense.
this can be retrofitted into a workout machine,
It is.
and we can make a lot of money.
It is good for you.
I love that. I love this story. It makes me wonder what other torture device can be retrofitted into like, very good business ideas.
I bet.
Like electric chair. Can it be like? Can
It's
it cure autism
Yeah, there's a type of
or
electric chair.
depression?
There's a type of electric chair that's like a type of therapy now. EMDR or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
But it's much lower voltage.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very funny. That's a funny observation. Because like, it's still good for you whether you're providing it as a commodity or as a subsidized prison experience. Like, you still should exercise. It makes you live longer. It makes your ATP better and all this.
Have you seen one of those like torturing device for women? It's like a wooden horse with like a.
Oh yeah, you move forwards. Is that a torture device or a modern?
I think it's a torture. I think it's a torture device, but then.
Well, if it's torture, it could be unisex.
And then it's like, why is she moaning so hard?
I mean, if it's torture, it's not limited to women. You can
Yeah.
strap a guy to that thing.
So, I don't know. I'm just my.
Do you know about Vlad the Impaler? He basically did that all the time.
Who's that?
He was a Romanian warlord that is
Yeah.
the basis for Dracula,
Oh shit.
15th century.
Okay, tell me about that.
So his dad lost like a battle to the Turkish in the Eastern Europe. The main enemy is always Turkey. We're always fighting the Turkish.
Yeah.
So he loses this battle, and for some reason, as a concession, he gives the Sultan or the Ottoman leader his two sons. He's like, raise my sons.
As wards, like
yeah. So that guy teaches Vlad and his brother Radu
Radu.
That's his real name. Radu the Handsome. Very ugly guy.
Yeah.
But
Is that why you're named?
I don't think. No, I'm
Okay.
named after some uncle or whatever.
Okay.
But they teach these guys like how to be warlords. They
Yeah.
teach them like, you know, both Christian stuff and Muslim stuff. They teach them all these
and Radu.
languages.
Yeah.
And then they send them back to Wallachia or wherever they're from, or Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And then those guys eventually fight the Turkish and beat them. And like they become, I don't know if
It's
they're
called Raising Wolves. Yeah.
basically, yeah. They're some of the first like leaders of a kind of independent Romanian state or precursor
What's
to
the
it.
origin of Dracula then?
So his dad sent Vlad, his name is Vlad Tzepes.
Mm-hmm.
His dad at some point sent him like a pendant with a dragon, probably from the east.
Right.
And they didn't have a word for dragon in Romanian.
They don't? Like an Eastern dragon
They
or
do
Western
now.
dragon?
They do now. But I don't know how it looked necessarily.
Yeah,
Maybe it
okay.
was, I think it was an Eastern dragon. I don't know.
Okay.
But he sends him this pendant and says something or whatever. And he likes the pendant. He starts wearing it, but they don't have a word for dragon at that time.
Yeah.
So they call it like baby devil.
Baby devil.
And the word for devil is Dracul. So the diminutive was Dracula.
I thought it's like Dracula's like dragon because it sounds like, okay.
It was just little baby devil, kind of like little devil,
Yeah.
you know. So,
But
and then
what
that was
about
his pen name. He started signing his letters that way, Dracula.
But what about all the like sucking blood, the vampire?
That's
Where's
based off
that
a
from?
British guy's marketing, his British propaganda. This guy Bram Stoker,
Mm-hmm.
he didn't even go to Romania. He sent his like assistant or something. I'm not sure why, on some sort of sightseeing, fact-finding expedition.
Researchers.
And
yeah.
the guy went there and he saw all these like medieval castles and like weird folk, provincial backwards people. And also what he saw was a rabies epidemic at the time.
Ah.
So people were like, they would get rabid and they couldn't drink food or water. They were like, this wouldn't, and they would like
Afraid of sunlight.
afraid of sunlight, sensitive
Very
to
pale.
it. Exactly. Yeah, losing their minds. And so the combination of that stuff that he saw, plus this legend of the Vlad the Impaler, this guy, this warlord who would, most people would decapitate their enemies and put them on sticks, but he would keep his enemies alive and shove like a big pole in their ass, and they would die,
Like impale them.
sliding down
Okay.
the pole. Yeah, which to some people,
Sounds like a cool guy.
some people would pay for that
Yeah,
nowadays, I think.
I know.
But yeah, they just combined all this different
Interesting.
folkloric stuff, and created Dracula. And
Would you is Romania considered like a Slavic culture? Can you lump them in?
Romanians would say no,
Like that? Okay.
but Slavs would say yes. Everyone else would say yes.
Okay.
Like we're Latin in that we speak like a Latin-based language,
Uh-huh.
and we were not colonized, but like we were a Roman colony for 200 years.
It's called Romania. Yeah.
But we were also under Slavic, like the Austro-Hungarians ruled us for much longer than 200 years. The Ottomans ruled us for much longer than that. So we got a little bit of everybody's culture. We're mixed in with a lot of stuff.
Gotcha.
But we say da, like the other Slavic cultures and languages, for yes,
Yeah.
instead of we or see.
Ah.
We even say Slava Domnului for like praise God.
Interesting.
The way,
That's
like-
why a lot of, because I'm a very big fan of Witcher. That's from Poland. I mean,
I
I
don't
know
know
it's not
anything
the
about
same
it.
country, but like I feel like a lot of the lore, the Eastern European like folklore, it's quite interesting. He always has a tint of like, it's very decrepit.
Yeah, they're very similar. They're
You know.
colder than us. They're farther
It's
north.
cold.
But they're a Catholic too.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. They're like one of the weird Catholic enclaves in the Slavic world.
Do you like Polish people?
Yeah, they're great.
What's your favorite Eastern European? What's your least favorite? Let's use that to
I-
end this episode.
You know what I really love?
Yeah.
I love Bulgarians and Serbians.
You like Bulgarian Serbians. Why?
Well, they're kind of weird neighbors of Romania. They're Bulgaria in the south, Serbia in the west. I don't know. They're just like sort of
They're very blunt people. I like
blunt
it.
and overlooked, and they
Yeah.
love to. They work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
You know,
Bulgarians, they just remind me of the Ironborns from like
very
Game of
much so.
Thrones.
Yeah, what is dead can never die.
Yeah, like the Yara, every woman I met is like Bulgarian. Like she literally talks like had the same face. It's like the hard-bitten face. It's like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
been through some shit.
Yeah.
It's like very domineering attitude and whatever. Which
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not a negative comment actually. I'm like, yeah, I like that. It's like really
Albanians, I don't really like.
You don't like Albanians?
Not
China is very tight with
China
Albania.
loves
Albanians
Albania.
is such a sim for China. Every time when there's a
know.
vote in the UN, they
I
always
know.
vote
Vote
in favor
together,
of us.
but it's because Hoxha, the
Algeria and Albania.
Yeah,
those
yeah.
two.
Algeria is like a type of communist, sort
Yeah.
of. Really, not. I mean, it depends on who you ask. But Albania, they were just a crazy hermit kingdom.
Yeah.
So in the
What do you mean a hermit kingdom?
in the 50s, I mean that's what I call it. It's not a kingdom, but in the 50s, their communist leader Hoxha, he breaks his relationship with the Soviet Union. He's like, these people want to kill me.
Yeah.
And then he's like, but also the Warsaw Pact countries, Romania and Poland and whatever. He's like, these are no good either. They're gonna, and the Americans are the worst. They're gonna try to bomb me. So
They're the North Korea of
literally, it's
Yeah.
a type of European North Korea.
Yeah.
So he spent most of the nation's budget building bomb bunkers everywhere, like 8,000 bunkers, super high quality. They're still all there.
He's a prepper.
He's a yeah. But even if you do that, you still need resources and some cultural and economic and technical exchange.
Yeah.
So if you can't get it from your other communist friends nearby, who can you get it from? Well, who's at odds with Russia at the time? China. So they develop these bilateral relationships, and they're like, even though you're super far away, this doesn't make any fucking sense. We're down with you. We're this post-Muslim communist society, and we're down.
I want to say it. China has a lot of batshit crazy allies.
I mean, does the U.S. not?
I know, but like there are few, there are like few like the kids who are just like, yeah, he's gonna shoot up a school. Like China's like, I'm gonna be friends with you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna use you like.
But it's very like
strategically.
It's very stoic and it's very like mature and calculated. They're not like, I'm not like excited to be friends with this psychopath. They're like, this provides an opportunity, and we have to take it, because if we don't go forwards, we're going backwards.
I think China is making a lot of very interesting like geopolitical move, including the whole rebuild, helping Africans build Africa, the
It's
infrastructure, like to the point
It's
that
the opposite of what the IMF did for
and
decades.
and it's working well. You know why? Because I have people commenting on my video and then humiliated me, say I'm a fucking drone, whatever, and you click into the profile, they're Africans who are like diehard China communism fans. I'm like, wow, they're doing a great job there.
I mean, you could say they're doing it in bad faith just to upset the
They're
Western imperial core. But even then, you're like, so they're doing a huge humanitarian thing to piss someone else off? Because when the West was trying to piss people off, they dropped bombs on Japanese people to show China and Russia what they got.
Yeah.
It's a very funny dichotomy. Very funny. And I don't think it's like they're doing, again, just because it's the moral thing to do. I think there's a Chinese
No, it's a
interest there.
geopolitical move. It's probably
and
we'll
Road.
see if it's a good move. Yeah.
Yes. But it is a good move. It's always a good move to invest in an underdeveloped group of people.
Right.
Because whether you get the financial return that you expect or not, they will be super grateful. They will be more likely to work with you. They'll give you better deals. All these things that are like, it's not a moral thing, guys. It's just math. It's
you gotta take care of your corner boys.
It's good
so
politics,
they
good
move your product.
Everybody, even the dumbest person can understand this, except for liberals for some reason. They don't.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why we talk so much about politics. I don't deem
It's everything,
myself as a political expert.
I think some people will consider themselves apolitical.
I usually consider myself apolitical.
But that's like a funny thing to say. That's
Why
like
would you say so?
It's like, to quote a guy I know, it's like a fish saying that it doesn't exist in water. They're like, yeah, I don't really care about water.
It's so like
Everything
imbued
is
in your
political.
life.
This is my understanding of politics. Politics is who gets what, where, when, and why. Mm-hmm. Everybody has an opinion on that.
Right. What's the politics of you sitting right here talking to me right now?
I need to get the message out.
Yeah.
Grassroots. Appeal to the people.
Did you vote for Trump?
No.
Okay. Did you vote?
Yes, I wrote in Chiang Kai-shek. No. Yeah,
well, that's a deep cut. With that, that's the end of the episode. Before my family disappears.